Welcome, welcome, everybody. How are you? Boy, the world's a crazy place, I gotta tell you. We just have to hunker down and sew our way through, and we'll just keep on keeping on. But we just keep having more and more hurricanes. So we're just going to donate, and we'll donate to South Florida, to Puerto Rico. We'll just donate, and we're gonna, it'll do a lot of good. It really will do a lot of good. So what we're going to start with, as I start sewing, is I'm going to have two requests. I hope you all will heed these requests. Not in any order of importance. I'm just going to heed two of them. And I'm already going to start sewing. I'll talk while I'm sewing. This is pattern 617. It's Marc's. This was Marc. I can't remember the designer's last name. I'll come up with it. Anyway, Marc's Twisted Blouse. And I'm following the directions, and I'm trying really hard to go exactly in order, because sometimes you all complain when I don't go in order. So I'm going to try to go exactly in order. And the first thing I'm going to do is on the facing. I'm on the facing piece. I'm just finishing the edge. This fabric I'm using is actually a knit, and it has stretch in both directions, so you wouldn't really have to finish the edges. I'm just going to follow the directions. All right, Marc Jacobs. Yes, thank you. It's Marc Jacobs. I'm thinking sewing. I feel like I've got 30,000 best friends out there. You guys are always helping me, and I really appreciate it. So my two requests are, number one, if you're watching, please $5. And I'm going to tell you something, that's going to go a long way. If everybody gave $5, that's going to go a long way. So if you don't feel like you can donate $5, well, don't. But if you can, please do. Okay, what kind of thread are you using? The serger thread, we have it on the site. We have those cones. I actually like the big cones, but we have the smaller cones too. They're a little bit cheaper. And on my machine, I'm using a Entressa thread. Alright, so the other two requests, sorry, one was the donation, and everybody's okay with that. The other is, I would really like everyone to call their PBS station. This week is like the deciding week. On a lot of these stations, just call them. If you've called them before, don't call them again. Don't harass them. But this week is the deciding week, and they start the 500 series, and here's the benefit for you all. Well, number one, it's a sewing show. We just need these sewing shows. But number two, it's the 500 series, so you'll get to see it free. If you put it on, you'll get to see it free. So I think that's kind of cool. So those are the two things. I have a third request, but that one's really easy. My third request is to sew this week. All right, make sure you sew this week. I've got to sew this week. So if everybody could put aside a little bit of time to sew, it's going to make a happy week. All right. So the first thing I did is I finished the edges of the facing. The second thing I did is the two center back seams for the shawl collar. The next thing I'm going to do is I've got the darts marked. That's my paper to remind me of those two things. I can do away with that. The fabric that I'm using, you guys, we put up, I don't know, 7 fabrics today, a lot, and they're all good for making this blouse. They're all good, and that's why I put them up. They're all beautiful because this blouse can be knit, it can be woven, This is knit, and I'm going to do it with an invisible zipper, but it doesn't have to have an invisible zipper if you do it with a knit, especially this one. This one's a two-way stretch. You can do it without. What if I have emailed PDFs? That's wonderful. No, you don't have to do them again. And most likely you got a response. So if you emailed and got a response, that's so appreciated, you guys. I just cannot say thanks enough. At the top of my darts, I always have a tendency to tie these off. I don't backstitch. I'm not a backstitcher on darts. I just don't really like the extra, so I have a tendency to take the time and tie them off. Then just cut them. They're not going to go anywhere. You could leave these strings long if you wanted to, but just when I look inside the shirt, I like them to be tied off. I'm using 2 yards, which I think is exactly what the pattern recommended. I cut that off before I cut it, and I used it all. My fabric is called Raised. It's one of the new fabrics we just put up, and it's called Raised something. So you should be able to find it off that. You guys, this is really fun. I'm really excited to be here tonight. There's just so many fun things going on behind the scenes. We are busy, ridiculously busy, but we so appreciate all of you all. I feel like it's been a while since I've been here. I'm not sure why. It seems like a long time since we've had a webcast, so I missed you guys. Maybe you didn't miss us, but I missed you. All right. How do we donate to you? Well, it's not to us. I think you're donating Hurricane Irma. That is on the very front page. Look in the center column, and it says Hurricane Irma donation. Okay, that's good. We've got the back there. We've got our 2 darts done. We're good for that. Next on the page is the sleeves. And because this is a 2-piece sleeve, I'm just going to serge them right together. There's no reason to do anything less. I should say the blouse only has 5 pieces, you guys. So this is not going to take a lot of time. You know, I mean, unless I screw up really major. The main reason I chose the blouse was really just so that, for a little bit of confidence. I think at this particular blouse, the base is 6'11". So if you have used 6'11" is Maggie's blouse. So if you've made that blouse, the only thing I would say to that is because I had a customer who has made Maggie's and really liked it, and then had a little more trouble fitting this blouse. There wasn't enough circumference, and it's because this is tighter, this is closer to the body, and so just be aware of that. It will depend on the fabric. So in this case, for instance, I have 2-way stretch. I'm not going to need any more, but if you had a fabric that didn't have 2-way stretch, you might need to go to a larger size. You guys know I'm a big believer in making a muslin. Make your muslin. Don't get lazy on me. Make your muslin. So in this particular case, because it is a 2-piece sleeve, I'm serging the whole thing together. When you do a 2-piece sleeve, you can't put the sleeve in flat. You do have to set in the sleeve. So that's what I'm doing. You don't put them in till the very end, but we have you make them now. Just because the way we do it, keep in mind that we lessen trips to the ironing board, going back and forth. So that's why we're doing the sleeves now. So all right, and I have to pay attention and read. Which white cream fabric are you using? You guys, it'll say raised raised something. I can't remember what it's actually called, but it'll say raised something. There's one sleeve.
Raised pucker.
Raised pucker, I think is what it is. Yeah, it's beautiful. I mean, it's really pretty. It's really pretty. I'm not sure why I do the back seam first on the sleeve, and then I serge the hem. Well, I serge the bottom. Again, it's a knit. You really wouldn't need to be serging. But I just like the way it looks. And it's easy, it's fast. The advantage of the table here is that, you can see it's flat. So I know there's no stretching going on. Sometimes when we're dealing with knits, they're dense. And so they have a tendency to weigh themselves and pull themselves. This is just so much fun. That paint drying again, you guys. I mentioned earlier. In South Florida. And Puerto Rico, we're sewing for you. We're going to come help you. Okay, sleeves are done. Would you consider doing a webcast making a reversible version of Hugo's favorite cardigan 915? Well, that's an interesting concept. Anytime you do reversible, let me give you my thoughts on that. We did a reversible garment. Pattern itself has done very well. I'm doing the shoulder seams, by the way. I can talk while I'm doing the shoulder seams. Pattern always did really well, but I will tell you, in having lots of conversations with you all, and again, I'm just doing the shoulder seams, you guys, is that as a population, and this is actually a ready-to-wear revealing, it's not just me, but we have found it to be true, and I've asked a lot of women, is that we don't use reversible garments. We make them, but we don't use them. We just use the one side that we like the most. So anytime you're doing a reversible garment, you just gotta, I don't know if you really need to do a webcast on this. Let me just answer the question so that you can kind of come up with the answers you want, or that you can decide on. When you're doing a shawl collar, you clip to these little edges right at the corner of the neckline. So that's what I'm doing. You line the center back up with the center back of the shirt, and you just stitch straight across. Pretty simple to do. So when you're doing a reversible garment, what you have to do is decide how are you going to make it reversible. Most of the time it's done with seams, with decorative seams on one side, taping the seams. Any reversible garment you do, it's really just done a very same way. So I'm not sure what we would do a webcast on regarding that. I don't know how I would make it reversible that would be different than how you might make it reversible, if that makes sense. All right, so when you're doing the shoulder seams, what you're going to do is I've clipped to the 3/8 inch seam allowance. You stitch to that point, and then you pivot directions, and then you stitch the back, and then continue on to the other side. Just make sure you're taking up the whole seam allowance as you go across. Good suggestion. Some of your knits are 3 ounce and some are 4 ounce. Does it drape very dramatically between the two? No. Should the 4 ounce be reserved for yoga? I don't think so. I think the 4 ounce can be done tops as well. If you really like the fabric, you can kind of wait and decide to get it before you decide what to do with it. You can change after you get it. I've noticed that over the years, if fabric I've had it, I think everything changes. And so I noticed that I change as well, you know, what I'm going to do with it sometimes. I mean, there's some that you don't have any options, but there are some that you do that are really fun to have options with. Okay, so there's the body of the blouse here. Can you please re-show sewing the shoulder seam and neck? Well, I've already sewn it, so I can't kind of undo it, but you know, but here you just it's actually done really well in the guide sheet, and I'm looking at the guide sheet. Right there is where it's actually on the front. You make a little clip, and so then you sew the shoulder to that clip. It's done really well in that guide sheet. Sew across to that little clip and then back to the shoulder seam. So you have to sew with the blouse side up. The bottom, the blouse back has to be down, and then you just zip, like it's kind of like a straight line almost. I mean, you're pivoting here at these corners, but that's what gives you that nice shawl collar. Okay, very nicely done. Now, I did not serge this because the facing's going to cover it all, and so it wasn't necessary to serge it. But what I am going to do is just go over the edges and just serge the edges, because it won't the facing won't come all the way out to the edge of the shoulder. It will only come part way out. So the shoulder seams themselves I'm going to finish. And if you decided to do the whole neck edge, you could go ahead and just pivot off, change directions. You don't want to do a shawl collar on a sewing machine because it's too exact. You can't pivot like you have to. You have to do a shawl collar on a sewing machine. But you can go back in like I just did and just finish those edges. So everything's finished. And it looks really nice. All right, so what's next is I'm going to put the facing on. And I've already got the facing, so I'm going to do right sides together. That's already been stitched. And before I put it on, I'm going to do the same angle here. I'm just going to finish this portion. And you can manipulate the seam to be straight because there's like a little L in the corner of the pattern. And by raising up this part, I can actually get the part I'm stitching to be completely straight. So even though there's like a little cutout, I can get it to lay straight by bending this part because the fabric's, you know, very, very pliable. Okay, so I'm going to line up the center backs. Those are both where the seams are. I'm going to put a pin right there and then sew the front facing onto the blouse. So just all the way from one seam to another, I'm going to sew the front facing, and I do all this on the sewing machine. Just keep going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And I start at the bottom. Once it's pinned, I can kind of see that it's matching. You can see the shapes are matching. And just don't let it slide. Make sure that both layers are going up together. And I'm using a 3/8 inch seam allowance. So I'm finishing off the front edge is what I'm doing. And you'll come to a little bend, and when you come to that bend, literally leave your needle down and pivot and go up. So leave it down. You can see I can kind of pivot. You don't really have to make a sharp turn. It can be a soft turn. It's not really going to matter. But when you come up to the edge of this lapel, you're going to go off and then come back on and go a different direction. There you go. Go off there and come back on and go a different direction. It'll make your, when we go to turn the points, it'll give us fold lines where we can turn the points. So again, even if you don't have like a table like this, keep it up on something so that it's not hanging off and stretching. If I were having to not have if I didn't have a flat surface, my knit would be pulling a little bit, and I definitely don't want that when I'm sewing on a knit. All right, what are your serger settings, especially width? Hang on, let me look. My width is at, well, mine have ends for everything. So I hate to say that, everything's on an N. So I don't even know what to tell you on that. All right, and then I went off again. I'm on the other side of the front lapel, and I'm going off, and I always make it a point to keep it all on the table so that nothing stretches, and then keep your seam allowances together. And then we show in the guide sheet, when you go to press this, we're going to press the facing. I'll show you here in a minute, because next we're going to turn and finish the front. This fabric is so pretty to sew on. I know we just put it up today, but it's really pretty. It's going to be a beautiful blouse. And here I am at the curve right there. And again, I leave my needle down and turn. I like it to be a little more sharp crease, but it does not have to be. We're going to look ahead, make sure it's even at the bottom, and go all the way. Yay, it's so beautiful to sew. So much fun. Okay, so when I go to turn these, now this is where I am, is these are the two front corners of the blouse. So I'm going to fold, fold. I've overstitched each one, fold, fold, and turn. And you can see, don't trim those corners away. They're going to make a nice, I'm going to actually top stitch it here in a minute, and they're going to make a nice, a beautiful point right there. And then you're going to do the same thing on the other side. Fold, fold, and turn. And just hold it until you've poked that out, and then it's just a really pretty fold. The rest will go automatically all the way. So you have a couple options here, because what you're going to do now is you're going to top stitch this facing in. You're going to top stitch it down. So a couple options I have. I'm going to press. You know, I hate to admit to this, but a lot of times I don't press this because I don't need to. I actually just kind of roll it slightly to the inside, and then I just pin. But you can press. But the directions, this just very next point, what they say is when the lapel, and I'll show it here. So this is the center back, and at the center back, I think it's almost easier to pin it than it is to press it, but y'all do what works better for you. You can see that I'm rolling the seam just slightly to the underside. Like I said, it shows a picture in the guide sheet. That's because that part is going to fold under, and it's going to, I want the seam to be just underneath. I want the right side to not show that seam, and I want that seam just pulled slightly. It's not a lot, it's just to the underside. I'm going to do the same thing as I continue down the front because of where I am. But once it gets to this twist, which is where the bend is and where I stopped pinning this way, I'm going to go even to both sides. So here it's still going to be on top, it's still going to be on top. And if you notice, I'm pinning right next to where the stitching is. So I'm still underneath, I'm still underneath, and I stay underneath until just about 3 inches, and then I do even. Then when you come down here, of course, the seam goes to the inside. So you're pinning this to the inside, so that basically the seam is under, it's even just right here in this little space, and then when it gets to the collar, it's underneath, so that it turns. As you go from top to bottom, it turns, and that's what you want. Then once I've pinned that, I can pin a little bit out farther, and I just hold my hand underneath it. The facing ends here, and put some pins there, because that's actually where I'm going to stitch. And if the facing out here is held in place, this will automatically happen. And the reason I say you can do this without pressing is because they do it without pressing in the factories. And I'm not saying you can't press, you can if you want to, just to make sure it's all, you know, like you want it. And so once I put the pins out here and press out here, or stitch out here, these places will be held in place. All right, so what I'm going to do is actually stitch from the inside. I'm going to stitch the width and then keep stitching on the edge of the facing all the way up to the shoulder seam, which is out here. And if you stitch from the inside, you'll have a little bit of a guide as to where to stitch to. And that way both sides will be even, because you're stitching on the outside of the facing, and you're stitching on the inside and you're stitching on the edge of the facing, and so it's really easy to stitch it straight. Okay, so again, this is going to be under, so I'm going to stitch that underneath here, and just take the very edge of the seam and kind of pull it out, and then just roll it slightly back. You see, it's very easy. This fabric is especially really easy. Depends on your fabric as to how hard it is or how easy it is. And then as you approach that bend, that's when your seam is really transferring from the inside to the outside. And so you're going to go even just for that little while, and once you come here, you're going to be at the inside again. Seam's going to be on the inside. And it just takes a little bit of time. Not lots and lots, just a little bit. Now this is a knit, so anytime you're dealing with a knit, your knot, or your twist, whatever you want to call it, is going to be a little bit bulkier. That's not true, I guess, than with a woven. I guess that's not true. I guess it depends on the knit, it depends on the woven. Forget that statement, we're going to strike it. Alright, and then again I'm going to the outside of the facing to just make sure it's laying flat, and to make sure that the pins over here are being held in place. Alright, then I'm going to stitch the facing down. You're going to see, you're going to go all the way up to here. I want to make sure that's flat, so when it rolls back, my seam will be in the right place. It'll be hidden below. And when you stitch up here, you can see that this shoulder seam is going to give you an option of coming forward or backwards. I put it back, but it's, you know, it doesn't really matter. I always put my shoulder seams to the back, just as an FYI. Okay, so I'm going to stitch that facing in place, and I'm going to do that by laying the top down, and now stitching on the back side of the facing. And I'm stitching about 3/8 inch from the edge of the facing. And you can see it's just really easy. And then once I go to press it, it's all going to be pressed in place. Don't allow anything to be pulling on your shirt. And I'm going to go all the way up to the shoulder seam. And again, I've not pressed the shoulder seams, but I'm going to take the shoulder seam to the back, and I'm only pressing right to the shoulder seam, and then I'm doing a little back stitch. There we go. love it, love it, love it. So you can see on the front now, that is all held in place. Oh, it's so pretty. Oh my gosh, that's so pretty. Y'all see that? No, you don't. It's not near as much fun for y'all. You can't see. And see, I can take all these pins out now because they've done their job. The first row of pins was to keep the seam. Sometimes if you try to do it with one row of pins, it just rolls on you. It changes, it shifts. So that's why I put the first roll in, and I didn't create it. A lady in the industry taught that to me. Just kind of easy for when a shirt or a jacket. You can do it on a jacket too, but you only have to do it on an unlined garment. If it's lined, the lining holds it back. So it's really just on an unlined blouse or an unlined jacket is when you'll use that. And I'm going to leave the pins there across there until I press that across the top. I'm going to press the other, I'm going to stitch the other side. And again, same amount from the edge. Don't let your shirt get caught up. You're supposed to put your pins on the side you're sewing on. I obviously did not do that. I did it really good on the first one. I didn't do so good on the second one. Kind of taking the pins out as I go, or trying to. And I'm going all the way up to the shoulder seam. So the only purpose of this stitch is to keep the facing in place. You can do a stitch that's just a, I'm going to call it an edge stitch. I'm not going to do that on this particular fabric. I think because it's just softer. I just really like how soft it is. So I'm not going to do an edge stitch that normally would be right on the edge. You can, but on this particular one I'm not going to. Okay, right up to the shoulder seam, and then my back stitch. Okay, is your stitch length 3.5? It is. And I've got my Teflon foot on. We are zipping away, kids. Okay, so I've only got a couple pins left now across the back, and I can press. This is really pretty. This blouse is really pretty. Okay, so let's press. I'm going to go here and press the sleeves first. I pressed the first seam I did is the back of the sleeve, and I press that to the back. You don't want to put your sleeves in until you've pressed. Because once you put them in, you don't have to press again. So press them before you put it in, and then you're done. I can hear you guys. It's pretty quiet back there. Everybody's sewing, huh? All right, there's one. It's a true white. It's a true white. The white that I have on tonight is that off-white knit, and it's whiter. It's pretty white. I can't say it's... We actually had a hard time figuring that out when we were putting it up today. We put it next to a piece of paper, and it was almost as white as a piece of paper, so it's pretty white. It's very pretty. you know, they're doing white now this winter. They're not doing the cream. They're doing both, but I mean, to see the white in winter is really pretty. Okay, that's done. The sleeves are done. We're going to do this portion here. That's just odd. See, it's so much easier to press it when it's stitched into place, I think. And it's really easy to manipulate with those pins. You don't have to burn your fingers holding it all into place. Gosh, I'm giving the blouse away too, but this blouse is really pretty. I might have to make one for me. All right, we're almost ready now. As soon as I press this, I'm pressing the shoulder seams to the back. And then just pressing across the seams. They're open inside, but they weren't pressed. So now I'm giving them a chance to press. And then press the shoulders to the back, and the back seam goes down. And then everything is pressed. The darts get pressed to the center back. So the vertical seams get pressed to center back. Then we're ready to move on. Everybody with us? 1, 2, 3. Okay, that is just, let me just kind of give you a bearing as to where we're at. It's really beautiful. Okay. You can see. Okay, let's do the little twist. I'm going to start on the right hand side. I'm going to do it just like the directions here, and I think we do on the, it's actually the left hand side, sorry. So there's like a little tab here. And so I'm going to fold that twice, and I'm going to top stitch it right on the machine. And by the time you fold it twice, it should be now just a straight tab. You don't need to backstitch this. I'm going to just because. I'm only going to do one side at a time. You're going to do the same thing to both sides, but let's just do one side at a time. So all I'm doing right now is I'm preparing the hole that it's going to go to. If you try to backstitch that little bit right there, it's not going to backstitch. It's going to gum up. So just leave your needle down, pivot around, and just backstitch the other, you know, not over, I mean stitch again. It is a backstitch, but if you try to backstitch that, it's not going to happen. There's just too much, I don't know, just not going to happen. Okay, so let me show you where I'm at here. I'm on the left hand side of the garment, and I've stitched this little bit right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to, and the notches are marked on the pattern. I'm literally going to just stitch those two together to where I'm forming this little O, forming a little hole, and I'm going to stitch right to that point. Could serge it, but because I'm needing accuracy, I'm not going to serge it. I'm going to stitch it on my sewing machine. And that seam, I believe that seam is a 1/4 inch. It's marked on your pattern, so I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty darn sure that's a 1/4 inch seam. And then just back stitch that also. All right, there we go. Now, if you want to, you could go ahead and just serge that now. This is all finished off, but you could serge right to that point. And whenever I'm serging off or trying to finish, I'll start there and serge this other way. Because mine's a knit, I'm not even going to worry about it. I'm just going to leave it. So where we are now is we have this is the left side, and we have a little weird O thing. Okay? Okay, so I'm going to lay it down. This is the part we're all watching for. We're all waiting for. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to go ahead and sew the other side and sew the little tab. I might as well get that done while it's flat. And while it's flat, it's a little easier to do it, so I'm going to go ahead and sew the other side. Remember, I backstitch here. You guys are going to see this and you're going to say, oh my gosh, that was way too easy. Our goal is, I mean, my goal is always to take things that look really hard and make them easy. Okay, so I've done the other side too. So again, it's just a little bit easier to do it that way. Okay, so here we go. We've got this side, it's the left side, and it's just going to be laying down flat. It's going to be on your right side though. And then you're going to take this side, I'm sorry, I'll make sure I say sides. It'll be the right side, everything underneath the stitched circle, the circle that's going to be stitched. You're going to take all of that and you're going to loop it into the hole. You're going to go underneath the wrong side and pull it through to the right side. And that, my friend, is going to make the twist. Okay, what makes the twist now is because you're going to bring everything except for the looped portion. You're going to pull it through to about the middle of the loops. And you're going to bring the loops back together. And those loops back together are going to go right sides together, just like I did on the other side now. And you're going to stitch this section exactly like, and we numbered it 1s and 2s on the guide sheet. Just like you did on the other side. Now I'm going to pin this just in case we need it again, because once you stitch it, I don't want to take it out. And this is the only complexity of this blouse. You can't even call it complexity because it's doing the exact same thing on both sides. Then if you notice, when it's laying down, I've got 2 horizontal seams, and I can manipulate this facing so that it's laying down and one on top of the other. And so if you'll notice, it's going into the hole underneath, and it's coming out of the hole. Hang on one second. Let me find these side seams here. It's going into the hole underneath and coming out of the hole on top. And that's how it's supposed to be. Okay, so that goes there, that goes there. Don't even ask me about making this pattern, you guys. It took me 20 years to make this stinking pattern. But it's just so easy. Okay, so that's the twist. The 2, you can see these 2 front facings are going to come back together at the bottom. And that's it. It's beautiful to do. We'll finish up that neckline. We're going to put a couple little snaps in there. I've got my notions I'm going to show you how to do. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, it just goes under, through the hole, and out. And then just sew that seam, and then just manipulate it all back to where those bottom front facings are okay. And the top comes out. You can kind of pull it top and bottom, and you can see they'll just twist around. And the twist will go in all directions. Okay, if everybody's okay, I'm going to go ahead and stitch this little section here. And again, you'll get it close. I usually stitch from this section. You can manipulate the fabric a little bit. I'm going to start there and stitch out to this side. They want to see it again? Are they serious? They really do? If you do, I guess it's speak now or forever hold your peace. Do it again? Okay, let me do it again. No, don't do it? They're okay. Oh yeah, you guys can just rewind it. You're right. What am I doing? Yeah, just rewind it. Just make the hole on the one side, bring it through, pull it out. That's it. Hit rewind. You're too funny. Yeah, you guys, you're right. Hit rewind. What am I thinking? Okay, I'm going to backstitch this little part when I'm sewing here. Because you want it, you know, you don't want it coming... Huh?
There were plenty who got lost, but...
You guys, all you have to do is look at the directions. It's really helpful to have the directions in front of you because we've got the pattern marked 1s and 2s, and it shows bringing that together. So I'm not doing it without the patterns. I've marked a lot on the patterns so that it would make it very simple for you. But all it is you're making one side a hole, bringing the other side through, and then stitching it. And I'll show you here in a minute. The blouse has horizontal lines, I'm not sure the word to call it, horizontal seams on both sides of that twist because that's how the twist actually happens. I'll show you. Let me get this off and then I'll show it to you. Okay, so I'm going to... Can we see on this mannequin, Brett, if I pull it forward? Can we put on here? I just want to... I'm going to pull this forward for a minute. Just so that we can... I'm going to put this on so you can kind of see what I did here. Kind of see where we're at. Okay, so there's the twist. And you can see, can they see that okay? You can see there's a horizontal seam here. There's a horizontal seam here. And then this is the part, the bottom of the blouse, and that overlaps. So when you first do that twist, you'll want to kind of manipulate it and pull different directions to get the twist laying as flat as possible. The twist will have gathers going all directions. And you can see where this is the side that we went under, we pulled it out, and that's how it goes. Okay, it's beautiful. These are where I'm going to put the little snaps. They're optional, but I have my little snaps with me. It all depends on how tall you are, how busty you are. Those little snaps will just kind of hide in through there. Okay? Ah, so much fun. It's so easy, but it's such a great blouse. Okay. Any questions? Are we okay? All right, and then the back, you see the back is just going to come in and secure it. This is the left-hand side. So this is the side that's actually going to have an invisible zipper in it. And even though this is a knit, I don't need an invisible zipper probably on a knit, but I'm going to do it just so that I can show you how to do an invisible zipper. I put it here because I can fold this all the way over and make sure it comes back and covers that seam. So I'm going to take that pin out and actually cover that center back seam so that I can start to train the fabric and, you know, and make it lay like it should. It's really beautiful in through there. It's really pretty. Oh, it's so pretty, you guys. Sewing is so much fun. Look at that. It's beautiful. And you can see there's my stitching lines. You barely can see them, but they're keeping the facing in place as I look underneath there. So pretty. Okay, can we keep going? Yeah, we're supposed to be done. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to sew the side seam. I think that's where we're at. Yep. I'm going to sew the side seam and put in the sleeves. And I'm good. You'll love it on this, you guys. Who has a blouse that doesn't have buttons and buttonholes? And we don't have buttons and buttonholes. It's awesome. So I'm going to serge this closed. I just can tell you, I'm sure I'm having way more fun than you all are. Is it worth it $5, you guys, to give to Irma? Irma, Puerto Rico, all those people. Boy, they are a mess. We won't talk about it anymore. It's too depressing. Okay, so then on this side, what I'm going to do is I'm going to, this is my invisible zipper side. So, and I put a pin on there when I put on the mannequin just to kind of not mess it up. serge the whole seam just single, just by itself. So that when I put in the zipper, it'll be all finished. And we're going to put in the visible zipper next. Remember, we only started with 5 pieces. And then I'm going to go around and serge the bottom because that's going to be my this particular blouse is only going to have a 3/8 inch hem at the bottom, so I can serge the bottom. Remember, the darks get pressed to center, back. The side seam gets pressed to the back. The right side seam. Do this one also, just the bottom, this little bit. Okay, so now I've really got it all finished. As far as the serger goes, I am going to serge the sleeves in, but what I'm ready to do right now is put this invisible zipper in. And the other seam is already closed up. So when I put invisible zipper in, I put the tab at the bottom so that when I go to open it, I reach to the left side. It should always go on the left side. It doesn't ready to wear. And I pull up. And then when I've got it on, I put my finger under here and then I pull down. I personally think that's the easiest way. So we are going to put this little baby in. I'm going to start, I use the tab, and I just put the tab, they can't see it all, here, the side that I'm going to sew it in first, I use the tab in the bottom of the shirt to be even. So those two right there are just even with each other. Now we have shown you guys, and I'm going to just put a little pin there just so I can finish with my machine. We've done an invisible zipper online, and I don't do anything different. I do it exactly the same. I use my zipper foot. I'm going to put my needle all the way to the left. It's going all the way to the left. I'm going to unzip my zipper. And actually it goes to the right to start with. It just depends. You're going to change it, but the way I've done it, the one side I pinned first, I'm going to go to the right first. So you're going to do half, and then you'll have to change your needle position. So the goal is, and the lady who showed me this, just all she did all day long is do invisible zippers in the factory. The goal is I want my needle to be outside, or not outside, actually right along the coil of my zipper. So as I undo it, I'm just going to roll my finger. I'm going to roll that coil down. And so the position of my needle and my foot, it makes it perfect. And I have to tell you full disclosure, when she showed me how to do this, she didn't even use a foot. She just used a needle like freehand. No, I cannot do that. I'm just too spastic. I'm too uncoordinated. But I have figured out that if you put the needle and the foot together, they just work hand in hand if you have the right needle position. So it can't, the coil can't go any way because the foot's holding that coil in place, and the needle is coming along right after the coil, and it's just perfect. I mean, it's just really does a beautiful job. So you want the zipper, it's got to go up past that seam most of the time. I'm not going to go too much farther. Don't sew all the way to your zipper foot, and then I'm going to do a back stitch again. You're going to overstitch this, but I still want to do a back stitch just so that it doesn't pull out. And I'm going to go bam there and bam there. Always when you stitch a side of your invisible zipper, zip it down, and the reason being is because if you've caught a coil, your zipper will not close. So just zip it all the way, just to make sure it's nice and tight like you want it, and just to make sure you haven't caught that coil. Like I said, if you catch the coil, you have to take it out, and there's no reason to do the other side if you have to take out the first side. Okay, so then I'm just going to manipulate this into where it is the side I know that it's supposed to be, and then I'll unzip the zipper again. And I put the tape all the way down to the bottom of the blouse, because once I hem the bottom of the blouse, I hem the tape the same amount. It makes it very easy. Now you're going to change your foot. Now I'm at the left side. I just did it backwards before. So go to the opposite side of your needle and foot. And we're going to do it again. And you're going to try to just sew up about the same amount. It doesn't have to be exact, because I'm going to show you in a minute where to come down. But again, I'm going to just use my little finger. I'm going to lay the coil down. And I'm going to just start to pick it up right there. It's just a really fun little method, and it's very, very easy to do. Especially on your machine, you know, you'll just have to get the needle and the foot aligned. And then get in there and just roll that coil down. On this positioning, I can't roll over the coil because my foot won't allow it. I mean, I can't stitch over the coil because my foot won't allow it. Peggy, do you think that a 4-way stretch fabric would make a top that doesn't require a zipper? Yeah, I've got, this is what mine is. My fabric stretches in both directions. It isn't necessary to zip this all the way here. It's not probably necessary to put in the zipper. I'm going to put it in just because y'all are watching, but also because whoever I give this top to, if you know, if they're very busty, then the zipper will help them get it off. So I'm putting the zipper in for those two reasons. If I was using this fabric, I'm going to backstitch a little bit, and if it were for me, I would not need to put in the zipper. I'm not saying I wouldn't. I really like the feature of this blouse that it has a zipper, to be quite honest. Okay, so I've got both the bases in, I mean both sides in. I'm going to close up the zipper again to make sure it closes. And you'll see that it will bring the sides of the blouse together. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautifully done. It's just like amazing. Okay, so what I want to do now is the top of that seam. It's the rest of the side seam. You can see that there it is. And so I'm going to start at the top of the side seam now and sew into the zipper. And in order to do that, I'm going to come up here. I'm going to go to the top of the side seam. And just, if what I do is I'll just put a pin through and see which one I sewed higher up to. And they're about the same. But anyway, so whatever side it is, I'm going to put that side up. Because I've got the needle and this, I've got the needle to the left, I'm going to put this side up. I'm going to make a very executive lazy decision. They're both the same, so it doesn't really matter. And if you've got your foot over here anyway, so what I'm saying to you is you want to put the foot opposite the zipper. So the zipper's over here on my left, and I've got the foot now on the right. Because what I'm going to be doing is I'm actually sewing right into those stitches that have previously been stitched. And I'm going to sew both sides at one time. And as far as you sew down, you're stopping the zipper from going up. So don't sew too far past them, but see, you can see that I've got all the bulk here on this other side. So right in there, and as I keep stitching, I'm going to lose my zipper length. So I'm going to stop and I'm going to back stitch. And I'm just going to trim these threads. And you guys keep in mind where this zipper is. This is at your side seam. The world is not going to inspect this. I mean, that is just beautiful. But the world is not going to. It's going to be at the side of your body, under your arm. So this is not, you know, the worst thing if it's not perfect. But you'll get it, and I'm telling you, by practice, you'll get better and better and better. Okay, is there a video that shows a zipper technique? There is. It's Tips and Techniques 2. Tips and Techniques 2. Yes, it is. Okay, so we're going to put one sleeve in. We're kind of at time. Do we need to put the sleeve in, or y'all know how to do the sleeves? I know, I shouldn't have asked that. I know what you're going to say. Yeah. You're going to say, put the sleeves in. We'll put one sleeve in. How's that? Okay, so I'm just going to put a pin at the top, at the bottom. That's for my upper seam, I mean my shoulder seam and my side seam. I'm going to, the very last step is just putting these sleeves in. That's it. So I'm going to line those up there. And I'm just going to serge these in. This is a blouse sleeve, so it's nothing different, nothing unusual than we've done on any other garment that we've ever done, except that we can't do them flat. That's the only thing that's different. We're going to have to do like the old-fashioned days, and we're going to have to do a set-in. When I do that, you just want to kind of give it the fullness here, and then the rest of it will come very easily. The ease is beautiful on these sleeves. You don't need to worry about not being able to get the sleeve in. It's absolutely gorgeous. Remember, if you're switching out sleeve sizes, just do, you know, take the sleeve that you need and take the armhole that goes with it and draw that armhole onto your blouse. It won't affect the twist. It won't affect anything else. So don't get nervous about changing armholes and sleeves. All right, that's beautifully done. We're going to serge this baby in. All right, when I do it, I put the sleeve down. You guys know that. Here we go. Doesn't matter where you start. Just try as best you can so that it doesn't pull, to actually keep the blouse on your table. Will have a tendency to want to pull away from each other because one is, one's your armhole and one's the sleeve. One's concave and one's convex. Keep those seam allowances edges together. Don't let them pull away because one line gets longer, one line gets shorter, and you'll have a hard time putting that sleeve in. Don't be pulling the sleeve because you'll stretch it. We don't want to stretch it. We want it to ease in normally like it would, and it will. Alright, that is beautifully done. There you go, one sleeve in. Make sure I didn't put it in backwards. Yay, I didn't. I'm going to put this on my body. See what y'all think. There's that little invisible zipper over there. I love blouses with invisible zippers. I have to tell you impartially, I just love zippers. I love blouses with invisible zippers. For some reason, I think they're so nicely made or nicely tailored. I don't know what it is, but it's something with me that I just love those invisible zippers. Look at that blouse. Is that beautiful? Oh, you guys, it's so pretty. All right, there's the two-piece sleeve. It's not pressed, but you can see it's really pretty. Fits in beautifully. And again, you can manipulate that just a little bit so that it lays smooth through the front. Is that gorgeous? Oh my gosh. I love it. Look at that. The back, the darts. Man, that is a home run. All right, Hurricane people. We got you covered. That is beautiful. Marc Jacobs, here we come.
What length is it?
I cut it out exactly by the pattern. I didn't change anything on the pattern. You guys know me. A lot of times I do, but I made no changes to this because actually what I wanted it for, I just really wanted to show you all the sewing of this. It wasn't styling or anything like that. I just wanted to show you the sewing. That is just so pretty. I know I've said that too many times. I'll hush up. Okay. Questions that you have? The placement of the snaps. I would put, it's marked on the pattern. It's marked on your pattern, but you're going to put one here and one here. Now let me just show you these little snaps, you guys. They're really beautiful, and I bought them especially for this blouse. Where'd I put them? Where'd they go? Just a second, I'll find them here. Here's my other sleeve. They're not there. They're in a little baggie. Here's my directions. Maybe I won't find them. But anyway, on the pattern, I have those two little spaces marked. Snap and snap. So when you go to put the blouse on, that's crazy. I cannot find these two little, they're beautiful. They're clear snaps. And I put them in a little baggie. They were with my notions, and I can't find them. And the room's clean, so I'm not sure what my problem is. All right, anyway. They're marked on the pattern. I actually brought the part of the pattern just in case we had that question. You can see where the turn is right here. So the turn is right where it goes through the twist. So the snap comes in right here and right here. And they're completely optional. When I put it on, it depends on how tight the waist is. If the waist is tight on you, you won't need them. But if there's a little bit of looseness, you want a little more circumference. Again, it depends on how it fits. You may feel like you want it. And it's really more when you just bend over. When your body becomes concave, you don't want that to gap in through there. So put it on and you'll see there's like one there right there, but they're marked right on the pattern where they'll be. And the reason I bought these clear little snaps is because the original, the Marc Jacobs original, had these little snaps on it, and I just think I felt like it was very professional looking. So I ordered these snaps. I found them in New York and ordered them. Oh, you guys, look at that. It's so pretty. It is just so beautiful. So that we could have these little snaps on our blouses. So they're online. They're under fabrics. I know it's not the right place to them. We're kind of redoing some things on the site. We'll get them in the right place. But for right now, I put them under fabrics. And they're great just to have a set of snaps in your stash so that when you go to use them, I think you'll find that you really like them and you'll start using them other places. They're clear snaps, so I keep thinking they're in this bag and they're just clear and I can't see them, but they're not in the bag. So I'm not sure where they are. But anyway, you'll see them online. If we prefer, could we twist right over left instead of left over right? I don't have the pattern yet, so just curious. You can. It does not matter which way you go. It does not matter. It does not. But keep in mind that women are right. Women are always right. Buttonholes go on the right-hand side. So that's on the top, and that's why. Buttonholes are always on the right. So that's why it's done that way. But we see a lot in ready-to-wear today that our buttons are switched different ways. So it's your blouse, your call. That's kind of, there's rules, but hey, so much for rules, right? All right, because of the twist, doesn't it lap both directions, left over right above the loop and right over left? It does. Yes, it does. It goes underneath and then it comes out. So you'll see that it does, but generally this is the portion you're looking at, and that's the portion that usually goes by the rules. This is the opposite. Again, though, no reason to debate it even. It's your blouse. You guys do whatever you want. We put it out there how we thought it would be, how the original, the Marc Jacobs was. How you guys decide to do it is your call. Okay? All right. So you know what this means? It means happy sewing from Silhouette Patterns. Yay, we did it. We did it. You guys, thank you so much for being here tonight. Remember 2 things. If it's worth $5, $5. And we'll donate, you know that, 100% will be donated. And then PBS station, please call them PBS stations. I need PBS stations: Los Angeles, Seattle, Denver, Provo, Oklahoma City, Jackson, Conway, Arkansas, Bunker Hill, Kansas, Chattanooga, Tennessee, Vermilion, South Dakota, Reno, Iowa, Columbus, Cincinnati, Bowling Green, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Birmingham, Appleton, Houston. All of these, we had 100 and something stations go yes, but these 22 or so, they're on the cusp. Houston, after giving all that money to Houston, can you imagine? Anyway, poor Houston, you didn't even have phone service yet. But anyway, if you guys get to it, we need your support on this. All right? Again, thanks so much. Happy sewing from Silhouette Patterns. We'll see you in 2 weeks. Bye.